Today we are answering the age-old question, the mystery, the thing that everyone wants to know. Will home distilling save you money? How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse and this is Still It, the channel all about chasing the craft of home distillation. But the question is, will home distillation actually save you money? Now, this seems like it would be an easy thing to work out, right? You figure out what you spend on ingredients, you figure out how many bottles it makes, you compare that to what you buy from the store, Bob's your uncle, you've got your answer. It's not quite that simple. There's a whole lot of other things to think about when it comes to this question, and we are going to go through each and every one of those together. Well, the ones that I think that are worth mentioning anyway. But the thing is, at the end of it, I'm going to tell you why none of this matters. Alright guys, so basically one of the Patreons asked me to run through this. They thought that it would be interesting to see my thoughts on it. And I've seen this discussed in forums and online stuff. For the purpose of this video, I would like to use the Next Step whiskey that we made a couple of weeks ago here on the channel. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think it's a decent sort of middle of the road example of what things could cost. And we need an example to work through as well, because it's going to make things a whole lot easier. So first of all, guys, ingredients. Yes, you got to spend money on ingredients, right? And this is easy for you to figure out. This is easy for you to calculate it. It's easy to know what you're spending on because you do it right then and there. You sit down, you order ingredients, you bring it in. Most of the time. Some of the time you'll buy bulk stuff and you'll have it sitting on the shelf. But once again, I don't think I need to go into too much detail on, I mean, you guys are smart people. If you buy 10 kilos of something and it costs you $20 and then you go and use 2 kilos in a recipe, so I think we can skip over the ingredients thing just a little bit. But as a reminder, oh, and by the way, guys, I've got my wife's computer here too, because I'm not going to remember all the stuff off the top of my head. I've got my spreadsheet going on here. For that Next Step whiskey, which is the one we made in the T500. If you haven't seen that video, please go check it out. It's well worth it. But we had Munich, ale malt, oats, dark crystal chocolate malt, sugar, and I put some wood in there as well. And all of that together added up to 60 New Zealand dollars. Now, obviously, team, all of this is going to be in New Zealand dollars because that's what I'm buying stuff in here in New Zealand. And it's probably going to be different for you. But whenever I do give a number for something for a total like that, I will give a USD equivalent for what I'm spending here in New Zealand just in USD. So if I exchange $60 into USD, that's what it will be. Make sense? One thing I would like to mention here is that people often forget to account for shipping. So you go online, you see what it costs, but you forget that you shipped it to yourself, or you forget that maybe even you took a special trip to go and pick stuff up if you've got a 20-minute drive. Remember to account for that as well, guys. For me, for this order, that was $9.99. So we're up to 70 bucks already. Now we get to the slightly more interesting stuff, things that people tend to forget about when they run these equations quickly through their head, or you might leave these out on purpose. Forget about them when you're justifying things to your significant other, for example. But electricity. Now, this doesn't seem like much, and it is going to obviously vary depending on where you are. But for me, for example, I sat down and had a quick think about this, and I realized that I ran that still for a total of, it was about 9 hours for that recipe. Heating the mash up, 3 stripping runs and a distillation run, and heating times for all of those. It was about 9 hours, and that was at 2 kilowatts. The super simple way to figure out roughly the cost of running an appliance like this, if you're trying to do it at your house, is you multiply the watts of the appliance by the hours that it runs for, divide it by 1,000, and then multiply it by the kilowatt hour price that your electricity provider gives you. If you can't be bothered doing that, just Google the average price in your area and it'll give it to you. So for me, that was $4.59, which to be fair was actually less than I thought it was going to be. But this got me to thinking that I also use a 2000 watt heater to heat the fermenter in a little chamber to keep the fermentation temperature, you know, on track. And just some real rough calculations, that worked out to be $7. which is kind of crazy and makes me realize that I need to switch that heater out for something a little bit more efficient. Complete and utter freaking overkill, and I'm literally throwing money down the drain for it. But you can kind of see how doing this process and actually going through and looking at it, assessing it, and putting a number on it is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of an eye-opening experience for me. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. And that is equipment. So here's the deal, guys. You go out and spend a whole lot of money on equipment, and then you just forget about it and you look just at the ingredients. That's not quite a true representation about how much this is costing you. And the thing is, team, you could go about this in a lot of different ways. You could kind of look at the cost of the equipment itself versus how long you think it's going to be in operation for, and essentially depreciate it by, you know, on a per use case or on a per week case, and then how many times you use it a week or on a month or a year or whatever it happens to be. That's up to you, and it depends how you think about this, and it depends exactly why you're doing these calculations. But for me, this first time around, what I've done is I have looked at the cost of the equipment I'm using, and then the rough amount of times I think I'm going to use it to kind of get my money's worth out of it. And for the T500, which I use for that, I said I'm going to use it 50 times, which is, you know, over the course of the next 6 or 7 years. That's about how many times I think I'm going to use it. And it was $545 new, so that was $10 for this batch. Once again, kind of crazy. I didn't really think of that. The Brewing bag that I used for it, maybe I used that, I don't know, 15, 20 times. So that was only 60 cents. And then I just threw in a few other things like the use of the fermenters and the glass jars, because I tend to break them every now and again. So on average, maybe I use a glass jar 20 times before I need to buy another one, or whatever it happens to be. And all of that added up to $12.30. Funnily enough, that was a lot lower than I thought it was going to be. This one though, this one is the killer. This is what's gonna mess you up. This is why you don't save any freaking money home distilling, and that is your time. Once again, guys, I get it, I get it, I get it. Some people look at this in different ways. If it's a hobby, you don't count your time at all, right? Or do you? I don't know, that's up to you. What I've decided to do right now is to split this up into different things that I had to do during making this product, and then assign a different monetary value on that time based on how much I love it or how much I hate it. And to be honest, guys, this was hard for me, because every time I do anything like this, I've got to record it, I've got to plan it, I've got to move the camera around, I've got to get B-roll. So 1 hour of actual brewing time is like 3 hours for me, so it's kind of hard to put numbers on this for me. But here's the rundown, team. Planning time. That took me 5 hours, because this was developing a totally new recipe from nothing, and a totally new kind of method for the T500 as well. So that took me a fair bit of time. But you know what? I love that. So I said that was $5 an hour. I'd like to think I'm worth more than $5 an hour, but for the planning time, because I love it so much, I'm saying it's $5 an hour. Mashing took me 2 hours, and distilling took me roughly 9 hours all up. And for both of those, I put them in at $10 each. That may surprise you. Don't you like distilling? I do like distilling, but you know what? I actually enjoy the thinking about it, and the planning, and the geeking out, and the trying to decide what to make. That's where the fun is really for me. I would never go to work and get paid for $10 an hour, but I would tinker around and pay myself $10 an hour in the shed, right? That's kind of my thinking on this one. Cleaning, on the other hand, fuck that, that's $30 an hour, and that was 1.5 hours. And then just random miscellaneous stuff, like having to come back out to the shed and check on where the fermentation's at, or, you know, come out and check where the aging's at. I put 2 hours down at the rate of $10 an hour, and that all comes up to $200, which is basically more than all the other stuff put together, and I am being very, very generous with low rates there. So if we add all of that up, the ingredients, the shipping, the energy, the equipment depreciation, or the equipment usage, or the purchase of equipment divided up by how many times you use it, however you want to look at it, and your time, this comes to $300. It cost me $300 to make it, based on what I just went through. Well, actually $293.79, but there you go. That recipe is going to yield me, I think, by the time it's aged out, and I've proofed it down to where I want it to be. It's going to be roughly 5.5 litres, which means for a 750ml bottle, that's $40 a bottle, and for a 1 litre bottle, that is $53.42. I'm going to change these numbers around in a second to alter the total based on different ways you can look at it, just to show you how much this fluctuates. But before we do that, I want to talk to you really quickly about, I guess I'd call it the opportunity cost, or the opportunity value of the spirits you're making. And really this involves just what you enjoy. And the easiest way for me to think about this is, imagine you felt like having a drink that night and you knew kind of what you wanted to drink, and you could walk into a store and all the standard brands are there on the shelf, but there in the corner there's a bottle of what you can make for, what was it? $40.60 for a 75ml bottle. Now, would I pick that bottle up for $40.06? So the stuff we made is kind of like, I'd compare it to maybe like a blended scotch or something like that. So I could go over there and pick a bottle of my stuff up for 40 bucks. Or I could go over there and get a bottle of monkey shoulder for, I don't know, maybe 55 or something for me here in New Zealand. Which one am I going to buy? That's kind of the way I look at this, and I have thought about this in the past, and where it really breaks down for me is if I'm looking purely at how much money it saves me, and how much it costs me, and so on and so forth, and take all the other stuff out of it. If it's a vodka, I'll take my stuff all day every day at that price, at that sort of price difference. If it is a mixing drink, I'll take the savings and use my stuff all day every day. Where it changes is when I start getting into the quote-unquote craft spirits or the brown spirits. So if you offer me a bottle of Lefroy Quarter Cask for $65 on special, I literally cannot make something that I enjoy that much for that sort of price point. I just can't. Like I haven't had the time in the craft. I haven't had the ability to develop it. I haven't had the time in terms of having products age for long enough to get to that point. The one thing that's gotten the closest for me so far when it comes to brown spirits is the South Island Peat. That is getting really, really nice. And give that another 6 months, and that really would give that sort of value for money, what I can get off the shelf in that $50 to $65, $70 range, a run for its money, I hope. The other things like craft gins, for example. So if I'm making a gin just to make a dirty gin and tonic at the end of the day, I'll take mine all day, every day at that value. But having a really nice bottle of 1919 gin, for example, it's just worth a little bit more to me. It really is. Like, I enjoy having it. And the other thing is, I enjoy spending money on craft spirits because it gives me inspiration to come back to the distillery and make better stuff in the future. So there's that as well. I don't know if you think about it the same way, and you're the only person that can really figure out what is worth it to you. Does that make sense? All right, anyway, before I go in and change these numbers around and give you an idea of the cost of making your own spirits based on a few different ideas, and just say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you so much, Patreons. It was one of you guys that let me know that I should do this, so thank you. I think it's a good idea for a video. But also, thank you for everything else you do. You make this possible. You let me do this literally as my job. How freaking cool is that? Anyway, thank you so much, guys. So, all right, what I want to do now is let's run the same numbers, but put a real value in for the time. So let's not weight things way down to like $5 an hour because I like it. And this gets out of control crazy quick. So if we say we're worth $15 an hour, and I'm telling you right now, I think that each and every one of you is worth a shitload more than $15 New Zealand an hour. I really do. You're worth more than that. But if we say we're worth $15 an hour, we're already at $48.27 for a 750ml bottle. Now, this just gets out of control crazy quick because the amount of time that you put into making spirits is just nuts. $20, it's 60 bucks for that 750ml bottle. And what should we jump up to? $30 an hour. That is an $84 bottle at 750 mils. So yeah, guys, if you value your time and you're doing this to save money, you're not. You're just not. You cannot save money by making your own spirits if you want to pay yourself. You know, if you think about what that time would be worth, just go out and do like a couple of hours worth of work extra, you know, do a couple of hours worth of overtime and you can buy that bottle of spirits, as opposed to working for a shitload of time to make it. It just doesn't stack up, team. But, right at the beginning of this video, I kind of hinted at the fact that I think that this whole freaking exercise is kind of pointless. After doing it, I'll admit that it's actually been quite eye-opening to see where the money goes and what I'm spending money on and how I can change that and be more efficient. The reason I said that and the reason I still stand by it is that I don't do this to save money. I do this to spend money. This is a hobby to me. It's a love of mine. I am investing money in ingredients and energy and equipment and my time because I love doing it. And the reward I get back from it isn't the bottle of spirits at the end of the day. The reward I get back from it is the, God damn it, I can't believe I'm going to say it, but the journey. Ugh, I hate that word. It's the process. It's the being pissed off and swearing and cursing and grumpy and angry and then getting a breakthrough and feeling awesome for it. And it's all of that rolled in together. The bottle of spirits that sat there at the end is a bonus. That is the icing on the cake, the cherry on top. So I kind of forget all of this. And in that case, maybe what you could do is go back and just take your time out entirely. And in that case, if you take your time out entirely and you keep everything else in there, it's a $11 bottle of spirits. And what if you take it a step further? What if you say that buying the equipment is an investment into my hobby? And from here on in, I'm just going to look at the, you know, basically just the ingredients. Forget about the power, forget about the equipment, just the ingredients. That's the cost that I'm going to call it. Well, now you've got a $8 bottle of spirits. And I mean, that's pretty freaking reasonable, right? I'm going to walk into the store and there's a bottle of $8 Next Step whiskey next to the, you know, the $55 monkey shoulder or something like that. I'm going to pick that $8 bottle a lot more often. The long and short of it is, team, if you're in this hobby to get drunk for cheap, you're watching the wrong damn channel and you're in the wrong damn hobby. Just go to the bottle store and buy the cheapest thing you can find. It's the best way to do it. If, however, you're in this hobby because you love the craft, if you're watching this channel because you enjoy the blood, sweat and tears of making that shit, then it all adds up and it all makes sense and it's just the cost of your hobby. I haven't edited this video yet, obviously, but I get the feeling it's going to be freaking rambly and making not a lot of sense. But anyway, this was kind of fun for me. It was kind of eye-opening for me. I hope it was the same for you. If you liked the video, make sure you hit the like button. That helps me out a whole lot. Like, it actually does help me out and it costs you nothing. If you haven't subscribed yet and you like these videos, hit the subscribe button down below too. That helps me out even more. And the other thing you can do is drop your comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think on this topic. Let me know if you've done these calculations before. And let me know what your thoughts are on the topic. In any case, guys, I'll catch you next time. Keep on chasing the craft. See ya!